Welcome in, episode 23, Wake and Wander podcast. Thanks for being on board. Remember when I said I thought the media was kind of overreacting during the government shutdown and to the flight cancellations? Well, I think this winter storm just proved my point. Hope you guys weren't flying this past weekend. It was a rough one out there. On Sunday alone, more than 11,000 flights were canceled nationwide. Big time numbers. How many flights were being canceled per day during the height of the government shutdown? About 1,000 to 2,000. Maybe some numbers up to 3,000 per day. I'm guessing that many people who were trapped in the winter storm this weekend were praying that it had just been the government shutdown. So perspective is anything. Just wanted to share those numbers. I myself had quite a dance with the airlines this weekend. I was finishing up a tour in Hawaii, and I had to travel back to the mainland, and I was traveling to the Gulf side of Florida. Originally, I had booked my flight. I always, this time of year, try and stay south because the possibility of winter is there. So why would you want to connect through Denver, Chicago, or somewhere like that when you know that it's possible it's going to have weather delays and things like this? So I had already been a little smart. I booked my ticket going from Honolulu to LAX, from LAX to Miami, and then Miami over to Tampa. And it was a cheapo flight, so I got the two connections. Sometimes I treat myself to more direct. Sometimes it makes sense just to take the slow route and pay a little less. Because connections have value, right? Obviously, the more direct your flight is, the more expensive it's going to be. Obviously, the less of a layover you have, the more expensive it's going to be. Generally speaking, right? That seems obvious to most people. I'm on the tour, and my tour is supposed to end on Saturday, which Saturday night is supposed to be the arrival of the winter storm to much of the Midwest and to the Northeast. So many of my guests, being from those areas, decide, instead of leaving on Saturday, as they were supposed to, that they would decide to leave Friday night instead and do an overnight flight to the mainland and try and get home Saturday before the snow arrived. Good plan. One person came up with it, and then as you go in a group tour, other people find out and they start doing it. By Friday night, I had a significant portion of my guests already heading out, which, okay, fine by me. Lighter workload. I'm looking at my flights. I'm supposed to fly out Saturday night and arrive on Sunday, and because of my route, I figure I'm pretty safe. I had no cancellations yet, unlike some other guests that were already getting delays or requests to change their flight. Then on Friday night, late Friday night Hawaii time, so kind of middle of the night going into Saturday, I get a notification that my flight from Miami to Tampa was canceled. I'm like, okay, that's weird. No big deal. Just end up in Miami. There's a bunch of flights between Miami and Tampa. Probably grab one later, but at least I'm staying south and the delay shouldn't be too much. I go to bed, wake up, and see that my flight has actually been rebooked. And instead of just rebooking me on another flight from Miami to Tampa, they have rebooked my entire itinerary to now go through Charlotte, which was one of the major disrupted hubs of the winter storm. They had ice warnings there. It was very clear that Charlotte was going to be hit and that Charlotte was going to be a madhouse. Very clear. So I thought, okay, that doesn't really make any sense. I guess it automatically rebooked me there because it was the quickest routing or whatever metrics they use. But I just said, okay, this is not going to work for me. So Saturday morning, I call the airline and I say, hey, WTF, I had this flight, yada, yada, everything I just told you. And I said, it just doesn't make logical sense to go through Charlotte when it's the hub of the ice storm. Why don't you just put me back on my original itinerary, Honolulu, LAX, Miami, and just get me a later flight between Miami or Tampa? And he says, well, I can't do that, sir, because the flight from LAX to Miami is now full. I said, well, I had a ticket on that flight and you guys took me off and you rerouted me into the winter storm. That's not really fair. So I think I should be put back on that original flight. I had the ticket for it. I even had the boarding pass for it. I was checked in for the flight. And he says to me, he starts to get a little rougher, and he says, "No, sir, that's not how it works." He said, "When you buy a ticket, you only buy the right to travel between the original destination where you're launching from and where you're arriving. You're buying the passage between those two destinations, and you don't actually have a ticket on your connecting flights. The connecting flights are just what gets you between the two destinations. You don't have a ticket on LAX to Miami. You never did. You have a ticket between Honolulu and Tampa. That's our responsibility, to get you from Honolulu to Tampa." And I just said, "What? Wait a second. Hold on. It's early here in Hawaii. I haven't really had my coffee yet. Can you just explain that again? Because that made no sense to me." I paid for the ticket on my itinerary. It said LAX to Miami as one of the flights. I had a boarding pass for it. What do you mean that I didn't buy that flight? And he goes on to explain again how it's only between the origin and the destination. Anything else in between, you don't actually have a ticket for. I kind of got a little upset or frustrated. I just said, this makes no sense what you're saying. It sounds very much like a company line. And I just don't get that, because when you buy a ticket, as I was previewing before, the connections matter. If you have a really long layover, or you have 2 or 3 stops as opposed to 1 stop or nonstop, the ticket is more expensive. According to the airline, when you're buying a ticket and it comes to placing a value to them, connections matter. They do. They prioritize and they raise the price of more favorable routes. However, according to the airline, those connections also are just meaningless and valueless once it comes time to rebook you. So you book and you pay extra to get a shorter layover and less connections. But when they need to rebook you, it's all the same. You actually don't even have a ticket on any of those connections. Very strange. Now, I'm guessing by the book, according to the contract of carriage or whatever they call it, the rules of the airline ticket they're selling you, that's true. I have no doubt that they've devised a policy where when it benefits them at the point of sale, the connections matter and have value, economic value. But when it comes time for them to rearrange stuff, all of a sudden the connections don't matter. So I'd never experienced that in my whole career of flying, and it was just interesting. Ultimately, I pushed back a little bit during the call and just said, common sense wise, this makes no sense. I hear you, but I'm not buying it. That's kind of my new thing now. I feel like with all these companies, consumer protection is just seems to be dropping, in the sense that bigger companies will do whatever they want, and it's up to you to either complain, and good luck trying to sue an airline or any of that stuff. So my strategy now is just to stand firm and say, okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. It doesn't make logical sense to me. I don't agree with you. And frankly, I'm a little insulted by what you're saying because of the contradictions I've just pointed out. But okay, now we want to move forward. But I just wanted you to know that I'm not buying what you're saying and that I think you sound like you're gaslighting me. And they might push back a little bit or whatever, but ultimately it's like, okay, whenever you're ready to move on, sir, I'm ready to move on. I just wanted you to know how I felt about what you told me. So then I said, okay, let's rebook. And the guy was able to find me a route going from Honolulu to Phoenix to San Diego, going backwards, and then from San Diego to Tampa. And I was supposed to get in around 5 p.m. or so, and I didn't end up getting in until about 10. 5 p.m. was my original itinerary going through Miami. All things considered, with the winter storm, I did okay. I had a couple guests, and they were rerouted through Charlotte, and I guess they weren't unable to change their itinerary the way I was, and they were delayed in Charlotte for up to 12 hours and had to spend the night there in some cases. So I got lucky overall. Winter storms, they're the wild ones. They come in hot and fast, and they screw everything up. If you had a story from this weekend, let me know. Be curious to hear how it went for you. Moving on now, wanted to discuss today something that we have touched on in past podcasts as well, of this idea of airlines prioritizing premium seats and those in the economy class left behind. Now, I will say I was slightly upset the other day. I was perusing CNN, and I came across an article, and I have pitched CNN. I'm not going to dramatize and say it was a lot, but at least one or two times, stories about consumer protection type stories for airlines. And specifically, I could pull it up. It was either last year or maybe a year and a half ago. I pitched a pretty extensive story to CNN about how the economy class was shrinking in the sense that the seats were getting smaller, the space was getting smaller, and all the investment was going into the premium classes. And so I pitched an idea, okay, let's look at what the future of economy class is going to be, because it's shrinking now. Is that going to continue to shrink? Are we going to have a company step up and design a better economy cabin overall? Are the future planes going to be any better for economy? And I thought it was a great idea. And my editor responded and said, sorry, we don't do consumer protection type stories. So imagine my surprise when I opened CNN the other day. This article is from January 14th. It's about a week and a half old now. The headline is, "Want to understand the K-shaped economy? Go fly on an airplane." And the K-shaped economy, for those of you that aren't familiar, is just a metaphor for a divergent economy where one segment, in this case being the rich, are going on an upward trajectory, and another segment, being the middle class and below, going in a downward trajectory. And that's known as a K-shaped economy. And this author is suggesting that if you want to understand what the K-shaped economy is all about, to go fly on an airplane. The article focuses on Delta and two key quarterly earnings that just came out about Delta Airlines. The first one is that the main cabin ticket sales, i.e. the cheapest ones, were down 7% year over year. And the second one is that premium cabin ticket sales, read business and first class, were up 9% year over year. Now, again, this is just a snapshot of statistics, but generally speaking, this is the trend we're seeing. So we have sort of a basis to start this discussion. It was the first time ever, according to this author, that Delta's premium seat sales eclipsed those from economy. We'll play some clips in a moment, but you'll often hear airline executives talk about how economy is the backbone of their business. And the author goes on to put it pretty bluntly. Rich people in the companies they work for and own are doing great, while the masses are tightening their belts. Delta's results also reveal where the company is placing its bets on the 2026 economy. If Delta is right, good times will keep rolling on for the premium occupants, while the masses crammed into coach can expect more of the same. Delta, the biggest U.S. carrier by market value, projects a 20% profit increase in 2026, largely on the backs of its premium customers, not just the corporate clients who have always been reliable, but also a surge of wealthier travelers who are leveling up their vacations. This means that Delta is going to expand its seat capacity by 3% this year through interior upgrades and new aircraft, and its focus will be squarely on the front of the plane. Okay, so I'll put this article in the show notes. She gets a little catty at the end with lines like, "Sure, you shelled out $500 for a last-minute bachelorette weekend in Cabo, and yeah, you're stuck in a middle seat with no recline in row 6,453, but hey, at least you're getting away. But before you go to your seat, you got to walk by the folks in premium with their legroom and cocktails and designer yoga pants who paid double or even triple what you paid." I mean, right there. I mean, come on. I get it, like taking a shot at first class for having their cocktails and legroom and stuff, but designer yoga pants who paid double or even triple what you paid, I mean, a lot of people get upgraded. You're kind of stereotyping the kind of person that's up there. I mean, I don't know if that's helping your point here. What's her name? Allison. But anyway, let's hear a little bit from Delta's CEO, because this article came out around the same time that The CEO, Ed Bastian, was doing a series of media appearances. Let's hear from the horse's mouth what he expects to happen here in 2026.
One thing that you said in an interview with a colleague talking about what could great look like is that effectively all the growth that you've seen so far has been from the premium cabin, not from the main cabin. Why do you think that is? Is it because of just incredible strength at the premium end, or is it because of weakness in the main cabin?
I think the main reason is the demand set for the premium seats and the premium product that we offer continues to be at a record high. The more we look at the health of the consumer, we talk about the K, we're at the top end of that K in terms of who our consumer is. And when you have a high demand set, that's what drives pricing strength, and that's what drives the growth that we've seen over the last several years. That said, on the main cabin, it's still a big part of our business. It's what pays the bills, I'd like to think of. And as we see some of the rationalization that's occurring, because you have a lot of lower-end airlines with low-end seats, too many seats chasing still, enough low-end consumer demand, that space is where a lot of the rationalization, and you see it in the industry currently, as that backdrop continues to get into a healthier environment, because all those airlines have to find a way to earn their cost of capital. They're not going to be around. And so as a result of that, whatever happens there, we will benefit from that, and we'll keep that premium demand set growing. So we're not growing in that space, but it'll still be a good one for us in terms of improvement.
Okay, so you heard a pretty good summary right there of what this article was talking about. The economy class is the backbone, quote unquote, but the real money's to be made in the premium, and that segment is growing. Now, why that segment is growing is up for debate. It could be that for the first time in a long time, the wealthy are realizing that they can travel and that they want to travel. And so there's a high demand for premium economy and first class because, for the first time in a while, rich people are realizing that they can travel. And so the demand is there. That could be one. It could be one. It could also be that the economy class has been neglected and shrunk and forgotten, so that people who would typically fly economy because they are thrifty with their money, and why upgrade to first class if economy's fine? It could be that those people are now deciding that economy is so terrible that they'd rather pay the extra money to upgrade. That could be too. Let's play a couple of these clips. Let's loop them together, and we'll just run through them, and we'll discuss afterwards. Here's more of Ed Bastian.
You're talking about the demand so far this year, and you've seen, I believe, record demand so far in the first week and a half of January. I'm just wondering, is it mostly still coming from premium? Is it equal across all tiers? Is it also in economy to the same degree that you're seeing in terms of the robust interest at the top end?
It continues to be at the top end. It continues to be in business. We're seeing double-digit growth in business at the start of the year. We had our largest weekly sales in our history just last week, up double digits over the same week a year ago. So if this demand set continues, we're going to have a great year.
When you look at airfares, Joe asked me about this when we reported your results. He says, look, they seem high. And he's not just talking about Delta, he's talking about the industry overall. What's your sense of what people are seeing with airfares right now?
Fares are driven by demand. And the demand set that we've talked a lot over the last several years that's growing the fastest is our premium sector. And as a result of that, our premium demand is what drives fares, because there's a limit to how much supply we can put in terms of the premium product. We're bringing as much product in as we can create. We announced this morning a big order with Boeing, which will have a significant amount of premium content on it. But that's where people want to be. Our customer is a premium customer, and they're willing to spend what it takes to be sitting up front.
And those are going to be crucial to your international growth, which, as you look out over the next several years, you and I have talked about this, you've incrementally continued to expand international.
International is the fastest growing part of our business. People ask me where the future is in terms of air travel. It's international. Only 1 in 5 people in the world have ever stepped foot on an airplane. So that tells you what we have to do in terms of making it affordable, accessible, sustainable. And that's where our growth over this next, not just decade, but our next century flight's going to be.
Ed Bastian, CEO of Delta Airlines, joining us on a day, guys, where they beat on the bottom line and forecast a 20% increase in profits for 2026. We'll send it back to you.
Delta Airlines just released its 2025 financial results, and here are the big takeaways. Delta's revenue increased nearly 2% to $58 billion. The airline found success with high-end travelers. Data shows their revenue from premium tickets increased by 7% compared to 2024. And Delta says in the fourth quarter, earnings from premium tickets overtook those from economy for the first time. Delta also announced it's adding 30 new Boeing 787 Dreamliners to its fleet by 2031. Those flights have larger and more spacious cabins and can climb to higher altitudes, which Delta says will lead to less turbulence.
Well, there you go. Less turbulence. So it just sounds like the industry is moving in a certain direction. And granted, yes, Ed is right. Delta is, of the legacy airlines, American, United, Delta is the quote-unquote premium airline in the sense that it's typically a little more expensive than other airlines, and it offers a little bit higher quality of product in the just comfort of the airplane and in the overall atmosphere, I would say. But this shift in the industry is not limited to Delta. For example, this month, Southwest, for the first time ever, is operating with assigned seats. And obviously with that comes the opportunity to pay extra for certain seats. And they have already announced plans that they are going to have a first-class cabin and a premium cabin in the future. So Southwest, typically one of the most budget-friendly airlines in the United States, is signaling that it too is moving towards the premium market. So this is not just a Delta thing. We have those great quotes from Ed. I'm not trying to single them out. This is an industry-wide movement towards premium. And Delta's numbers are sort of the first to show this. And I'm curious what you guys think about it. My thoughts are a bit nuanced because I've flown first class many times, mostly via upgrades. In fact, 100% via upgrades. I can't remember a time I've ever paid for a first class seat on my own. Perhaps work has paid for one for me in the past, but generally speaking, I get upgraded just via having status on an airplane and flying an uncrowded route, and you get upgraded. My argument is nuanced in the sense that I definitely get the appeal of first class. In our current situation, I don't blame anybody for wanting to upgrade to first class or premium economy or get a exit row seat that has more leg room. I mean, obviously, it's more comfortable. My argument is not to blame anybody that sits in first class. My argument is not to abolish first class at all. I also understand why the airlines are doing it because it is the highest revenue. And I do understand the realities of the economy class in terms of making money. They say it's their base, their bread and butter, it pays the bills for them, but they don't make a ton of profit off of it. And like it or not, companies in America want to make a profit. And not only do they want to make a profit, they have to increase their profits year over year to keep shareholders happy. I could go on some pie-in-the-sky argument about how everybody should be equal, etc., and that's great. And if that were the world we lived in, I would be all for it. In this case, I think we need to take more gradual steps towards getting there because it's not going to do any good to scream into the void that we should abolish first class. It's not going to happen. But I also don't want the industry to forget about economy travelers, and also I don't want the industry to overlook the value they can provide. For example, I would just like to point out Ryanair is a European budget airline. They are notoriously a budget airline. And in 2025, they made a profit of 1.6 billion euros. And that was actually a 16% decrease from the previous year. So they had been even more profitable in other years. Their total revenue was almost 14 billion euros. And that was up 4% from the previous year, but their costs increased by 9%. That's a lot of money, and that's just a budget airline. So there are models out there where it can be possible. And I don't think that we should lose sight of that as an industry. Analyst recently told the Financial Times, let me pull it up here, that the airline industry is in a, quote, premium arms race, investing heavily into loyalty programs and higher-end lounges to compete for well-heeled, higher-margin travelers. Yeah, it doesn't give me faith going forward that the economy class experience will improve at all. it doesn't seem like that's the direction we're going. But hey, if you're feeling upset about that, don't worry, because Ed Bastian, CEO of Delta, his salary in 2024, according to reports, was about $27 million. But don't worry, his choice is always to fly economy. Here he is at a recent appearance.
I'm terrible. I'm one of the last people to get on board the flight, and our team's always rushing to make sure that I'm there because planes will not wait for me.
What do you do to pass time on a flight?
I'm usually getting caught up on my emails. Many times when I travel, I'm sitting in coach. It's always interesting as customers come back and say, "Why are you back here?" And I said, "That's about what my ticket could afford." And usually next to the restroom.
Do people typically recognize you in coach?
They do, and they have a lot of fun when I'm there.
What's your favorite snack to order?
Oh, that's easy. Biscoff.
And what about your favorite drink?
My drink is Coke Zero.
And do you have a favorite airport you like to travel to?
My favorite airport to travel to is Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson because it means I'm home.
God, I just want to play that one part. Can we just repeat that one part about the economy ticket so we can hear it again? Can you replay it?
Many times when I travel, I'm sitting in coach. It's always interesting as customers come back and say, "Why are you back here?" And I said, "That's about what my ticket could afford." And usually next to the restroom.
Yeah, so there you have it. Ed Bastian, CEO of Delta, $27 million in compensation last year. And, quote, what his ticket can afford is a seat by the bathroom in economy. If you believe that, I'll tell you another one. This is the kind of stuff that gets people really upset. And honestly, I don't blame them. It's complete lie and gaslighting. It's just to explain it. It's just so silly. It's insulting is what it is. I'm sure he sat in economy class. Was it because he couldn't afford first class? No. Does he really think we believe that he had to sit by the bathroom and he's just a regular guy? This is the kind of stuff that really drives the wedge in between because it just really insults your intelligence and it comes off very fake and phony. And I got to say, the reporters that do these interviews and don't push back and put that content out without some kind of explanation, disclaimer, pushback is just, they're doing PR for the airline, and it's depressing. So, all right, let's going to wrap it up here, guys. Coming up in February, we got trips to Utah, we got trips to Montana, we got trips to the Caribbean. Looking forward to sharing some of those adventures with you. Also, a couple guests lined up for February. Thank you so much. Reach out if you want. will@wakeandwander.com. We will see you next time.
Riding the terrain, flying high up once again. Got my crew sitting healthy and my boo living wealthy. Level 99, never settle in my mind. So I pedal and I climb up the pedestal and find almighty weapon. So I calm, lightly step into the castle. Satchel, tackled, wrestled down the corridor where I'm grounded through the floor. Roundhouse into my core, down, out, and through the door. Sword down at my side, I gotta round up and ride. Face boss, break jaws till I take off. Face off, stop and swing my serious strike. This is it. Take the title, disappear in the night to the whole wide world. Got the keys to the kingdom overseas with the wisdom guarantee that my rhythm hit the whole wide world. Slay the boss in the castle when we cross final battle. Then I walk out and travel to the whole wide world. Got the keys to the kingdom overseas with the wisdom guarantee that my rhythm